Just been listening live there to an LAPD press conference updating the situation on.
The autopsy report is the only witness that cannot lie. Lawyers can argue. Defendants can stay silent. Human memory can distort over time. But the body does not forget. It records everything. Every wound, every moment, every stretch of silence after life has already left. And in the tragedy of the Reiner family, forensic science became the force that shattered the story of temporary insanity before it ever reached the jury. When Nick Reiner was arrested, the explanation came quickly: acute psychosis, a sudden change in medication, schizophrenia, a chemical storm in the brain. According to the defense, Nick was no longer capable of understanding right from wrong, but at the same time, the Los Angeles police released a detail that immediately changed the direction of the case. Rob and Michelle Reiner did not die during a chaotic argument. There were no signs of a violent struggle spreading through the house, no overturned furniture, no hallway chase. They were found in the bedroom. That single fact made investigators pause. In criminal psychology, the bedroom is a sanctuary. It is where people lower their guard, where they believe they are safest. An attack in this space is rarely random. It requires waiting, timing, and a conscious decision to enter the most private space of another human being. But what truly destroyed the insanity narrative was not what happened during the attack. It was what happened afterward. Because after his parents were dead, Nick Reiner did not panic. He did not call for help. He did not remain at the scene in confusion or shock. He left. The forensic timeline revealed a gap of several hours. During that window, the suspect drove away from the Brentwood home, appeared at a gas station, bought a drink, checked into a hotel, and slept in silence. While the clock was still ticking, at that moment, the case stopped being about a single night of violence. It became a question of behavior, because how a person acts after a crime often reveals more than the act itself, and that question refuses to go away. If someone is calm enough to leave, rational enough to hide, and controlled enough to disappear for hours, can they truly claim they did not know what they had done? The answer does not live in emotion. It lives in the timeline. On Saturday night, December 3rd, Nick Reiner attended a Christmas party hosted by Conan O'Brien. It was a familiar setting for Hollywood's inner circle. Warm lights, music, polite conversations between people used to being seen. But Nick did not blend into that world. Several witnesses later described him as disconnected, not disruptive, not aggressive, just out of sync. Nick approached a number of high-profile guests and asked questions that felt unsettling in their simplicity. What is your name? Are you famous? The questions were not threatening, they were empty, as if they were coming from someone slowly losing his grip on reality. After the party, Nick left, and from that moment on, the timeline went silent. Sunday morning passed at the Reiner home in Brentwood with no visible signs of activity, no calls, no messages, no sightings of Rob or Michelle. For a family known to be close and consistent in their routines, the silence was unusual, but it was not until early afternoon that it became alarming. A massage therapist arrived for a scheduled appointment and could not reach anyone inside the house. The gate was locked. The doorbell went unanswered. Phone calls rang without response. A sense of unease set in. She called Romy Reiner, the couple's daughter, who lived just across the street. Romy did not call back. She ran. It was only a short distance, but it became the longest walk of her life. A familiar path that once represented comfort now led straight into a nightmare. In that moment, hope and dread existed side by side. Maybe they were sleeping. Maybe nothing was wrong. But the fear was already there. The door opened, and hope collapsed. Romy was the first to find her father. According to reports, the scene was so horrific that she immediately ran back outside. Her body reacted before her mind could process what she was seeing, but the worst truth had not yet been revealed. Michelle Reiner was not visible at first. It was only after paramedics and police arrived that the second confirmation came. Michelle was gone too. There would be no mistake. No miracle. In a single afternoon, Romy Reiner went from a daughter living across the street to the sole survivor of a family annihilated inside its own home. As Romy was pulled into shock, questioning, and disbelief. Investigators faced a growing and deeply troubling question. Where was Nick Reiner during all of this? He was not at the scene. He had not called for help. There were no signs of a man collapsing under immediate psychological distress. Instead, he was simply gone, leaving behind a locked house, 2 bodies, and a daughter forced to discover the unimaginable. For detectives, this was the moment the case shifted. A person who has completely lost control does not usually vanish so cleanly. They do not disappear for hours. This silence was not chaotic. It was organized, and that absence demanded an explanation. While Romy Reiner was discovering the bodies of her parents and the Brentwood home was being sealed off by police, Nick Reiner was nowhere near the scene. Location data and surveillance footage later showed that he had left the area hours earlier and traveled roughly 15 miles west, toward Santa Monica. What he did during that window would become one of the most disturbing elements of the case. Security cameras at a gas station captured Nick Reiner walking into a convenience store. He was not running. He was not hiding. He moved like an ordinary customer. He wore a dark jacket, a baseball cap, and carried a bright red backpack. What shocked the public was not his presence, but his condition. Nick was not covered in blood. He was not shaking. There were no visible signs of panic or emotional collapse. He browsed the aisles, selected a sports drink, stood in line, and paid with a credit card. Later, the cashier told police that Nick appeared completely normal, polite, unremarkable. This moment ignited outrage and disbelief. Experts began asking a difficult question. How does a person move from the level of violence required to inflict multiple fatal injuries to the casual behavior of buying a drink in public? From the gas station, Nick continued on to a hotel in Santa Monica. He did not use a fake name. He did not attempt to conceal his identity. He simply checked in for a single night. 2 investigators. This detail carried a chilling message. It suggested no long-term escape plan, but it also showed an alarming lack of urgency. He was not acting like someone who believed he was in danger of immediate capture. Inside the hotel room, Nick's behavior shifted. According to investigative sources, he covered the windows with bed sheets. This detail became a focal point for analysts. Covering windows is not random. It suggests awareness. It suggests fear of being seen. A person completely detached from reality rarely takes steps to block observation. That hotel stay is widely believed to have been a critical cleanup window. Forensic experts believe Nick likely showered, washing away biological evidence from his skin and hair. Blood can be removed, but time cannot. Every action during those hours became part of an undeniable sequence. While Romy Reiner was being questioned, trembling and reliving the moment she found her father, Nick Reiner slept in a quiet hotel room on clean sheets. Only a few miles away, there was no emergency call, no attempt to return to the scene, no visible sign of immediate remorse or collapse. To investigators, this did not look like confusion. It looked like self-preservation. Each decision pointed toward awareness rather than chaos. And with each new detail, the central question of the case grew sharper. If someone knows how to avoid detection, how to distance themselves, and how to erase physical traces, can they truly claim they did not understand what they had done? When investigators entered the bedroom of the Brentwood home, the entire narrative of a sudden mental break began to collapse. Because this scene did not reflect chaos, it reflected structure. And in criminal investigations, structure almost always implies intent. Rob and Michelle Reiner were not found in the kitchen, where arguments typically erupt. They were not discovered in a hallway, where victims often try to escape. According to official reports, both were found in the bedroom. The same room, the same moment, the most vulnerable place a human being can be. In criminal psychology, the bedroom is considered a sanctuary. It is where defenses drop, where people believe they are safe. An attack in this space is rarely impulsive. It requires waiting. It requires timing. And it requires a conscious decision to step into the most private space of another person. The autopsy report listed the cause of death as multiple sharp force injuries. On paper, it is a clinical phrase. In practice, it signals something far more disturbing. Forensic experts recognize this pattern as overkill, violence far beyond what is necessary to end a life. Overkill most often appears in crimes involving deep personal relationships between the attacker and the victim. Analysis of the wounds suggests the attack likely began with Rob Reiner. Despite his age, he would have been the primary physical threat. Neutralizing the father first indicates sequence and intent. Once Rob was incapacitated, the attack on Michelle continued with sustained violence. Even after life had already ended, this was not the behavior of someone acting in blind panic. It was the behavior of someone releasing accumulated rage, not a sudden loss of control, but a prolonged act driven by emotion and choice. Forensic science also answered the most haunting question: how long? Based on rigor mortis and blood-settling patterns, Rob and Michelle had been dead for hours before Romy arrived. During that time, there was no emergency call, no attempt to seek help, no immediate collapse, only departure. Then came the detail investigators consider decisive. In knife attacks, a phenomenon known as hand slippage often occurs. The force required to inflict deep wounds causes the attacker's hand to slide down the blade, resulting in self-inflicted cuts. This has critical legal significance. If Nick Reiner's blood is found mixed with his parents' blood within the coagulating layers at the crime scene, it places him at the exact moment of the attack. You cannot accidentally bleed into a wound that is being inflicted in real time. Blood-stained fingerprints, footprints, the geometry of blood spatter. All evidence pointed to a contained scene. No intruder, no third party. Only 3 people were present: a father, a mother, and their son. The bedroom, once a symbol of safety and success, became the coldest indictment of all. It did not describe chaos, it described choice. And through forensic science, that choice was transformed into evidence that could not be argued away. The legal climax of the Reiner family tragedy did not begin with a gavel strike, but with a chilling entrance. On the morning of December 17th, Nick Reiner was brought into a Los Angeles Superior Court courtroom wearing a thick blue suicide prevention smock. He wore nothing underneath. His skin looked pale under the fluorescent lights. His hands and ankles were bound with heavy restraints. A thick glass partition separated him from the rest of the room. Yet the most unsettling detail was not the security, it was his face. Nick's expression was vacant. His eyes appeared hollow, fixed forward, barely blinking. There was no visible emotion, no fear, no remorse. When the judge asked a procedural question, Nick responded with just 3 words. "Your Honor." His voice was flat, detached. That image became the foundation of the defense strategy. Nick's attorneys quickly began constructing a narrative centered on mental illness. They pointed to schizophrenia, to recent changes in medication, to a chemical imbalance that, they argued, stripped Nick of the ability to distinguish right from wrong at the time of the killings. In this version of events, Nick Reiner was not a murderer. He was a passenger trapped inside a broken mind. But as the insanity defense took shape, public reaction moved in the opposite direction. Because the timeline did not support the image of a man lost in psychosis, a person in complete mental collapse does not typically carry out a series of calm, self-protective decisions after an act of extreme violence. Nick left the scene. He drove away. He stopped at a gas station. He made a purchase. He checked into a hotel. He covered the windows. He showered. He slept. Each action, on its own, could be explained away. Together, they formed a pattern of avoidance, a pattern of awareness. Covering the windows was not random behavior. It suggested fear of being seen. Showering suggested an understanding of evidence. Distance suggested intent to separate himself from the crime. This contradiction pushed the case beyond legal technicalities. It became a battle between 2 stories. One framed Nick as a severely ill patient in need of treatment. The other framed him as a person capable of rational thought, who chose concealment over accountability. Inside the courtroom, lawyers argued statutes and psychiatric evaluations. Outside, the public argued something else entirely: morality, responsibility, and the uncomfortable line between illness and excuse. And at the center of it all remained the same unresolved question. If a person knows how to hide, how to escape, and how to erase traces, can they truly claim they did not understand what they had done? When the cameras leave the courtroom and the lawyers continue fighting through motions and filings, the Reiner family enters a different reality, a quiet one, a permanent one. Jake and Romy Reiner did not just lose their parents. They lost the sense of safety that comes with believing your own family is a refuge. In a single day, they became survivors of a tragedy caused by their own blood. In a brief statement to the press, they wrote, "They were not just our parents, they were our best friends." Few sentences could better capture the scale of what was taken. For Romy, the trauma is physical and unavoidable. She lives directly across the street from the Brentwood house. Every time she looks out her window, she does not see a home. She sees the moment she ran across the road in panic, the door she opened, the instant her life split into before and after. She did not just lose her parents, she was the one who found them. That image is something she will carry forever. For Jake, the burden takes a different form. As the older brother, he is believed to have noticed Nick's instability long before the violence occurred. Jake now lives with a devastating dual reality. He must grieve the parents he lost while confronting the brother who caused their deaths. He must mourn the version of Nick who once existed, while accepting the person Nick became. And then there is the question no family wants to face. If Nick is found legally incompetent, what comes next? Could he one day return to society? Could Jake and Romy ever live without the fear that the danger has not truly ended? For them, this is not a legal debate. It is a question of survival. Rob Reiner spent his life telling stories about love, connection, and humanity, but life denied him the chance to direct his own ending. He did not die as a Hollywood icon. He died as a father, possibly trying to calm the very son who would end his life. And when all the evidence is laid out, the final judgment does not belong only to the court, it belongs to all of us. Can a damaged mind excuse a calculated escape? If someone knows how to run, how to hide, and how to erase evidence, do they truly not understand what they have done? If this story made you think, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can continue examining cases where the truth is never simple. Do you believe Nick Reiner is a victim of severe mental illness, or someone who fully understood every choice he made? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.